Tabletop Tactics, and welcome to this Christmas Eve Grotmas Detachment. It's the last one. It's been quite the ride. It's been really exciting. I said this in the Black Templars one, but it's kind of missing this. We get to see you every day, and it's very, very nice indeed. So I hope you've been enjoying these, and if you have, please do consider hitting the subscribe button because it helps us out massively. And also, as we go through into the new year and new stuff gets released, the first place you can find it is here, because we'll be covering as much as we can as we go through all the stuff to come out of 10th edition in the new year of 2025. So very exciting. Today, however, what is most exciting is the Champions of Fenris. That is the new detachment for the Space Wolves. Let's have a look at it right now. The Champions of Fenris then, the rule is called the Great Wolf Watches. And what this is effectively a countercharge for your whole army. Ooh, it's really quite nice and harkens back to the Space Wolves of old. Effectively, any of your walker or infantry units that are within 3 inches of an enemy unit at the end of your opponent's charge phase, if they would normally be eligible to charge if it was your charge phase, they can charge as if it were your charge phase, but don't gain the benefits of charging. So they don't get the fights first from charging, but they can enter into combat and charge. You roll as normal, you do all your standard rolling. It's very, very nice indeed. The way this detachment works wants you to lean into some of your more resilient infantry, and so therefore they're likely to hang around, and if they're just sort of finishing off a unit, or if just, you know, your opponent doesn't want to charge your Wolfguard Terminators but wants to charge your squishier unit and ends up too close to them, you can then still make it into combat and bring death and glory to your house and your wolves. There's also a little tidbit in here that does say Adeptus Astartes Terminator models do get an additional OC in this detachment, so it does make them OC2. Thematically, I think they're really leaning in with the Champions of Fenris to make it all about those Wolfguard Terminators and the elites within the Space Wolves chapter. So let's have a look at those enhancements. First up in the enhancement then is the Wolves' Wisdom. This is really quite nice. It's on the pricier side, but what it does is give the unit you give it to, and this can be put on any Adeptus Astartes infantry models, it will give that unit a 6-inch countercharge instead of a 3-inch countercharge for the Great Wolf is Watching ability. Now, it is quite pricey at 30 points, but I can't overstate how powerful a stratagem like this can be, or an ability like this can be, especially when you look at the Dark Angels attachment and it's priced at 2 CP. So to get it always on that unit that you want to use it on, something that's particularly nasty in combat, it's a really nice deterrent of that. If your opponent goes anywhere near you, even just within 6 inches, you can then always charge them at the end of their charge phase. So it allows you to dictate combat on your terms, which is very, very nice indeed. Next up, we have Foe's Fate. This is an interesting one, can be taken on a Terminator model. Effectively, it forces desperate escape tests on an enemy unit that is within engagement range of you if they fall back and if they're battle shocked at -1. This has been coming up a lot in these detachments. It's almost as if they're really desperately trying to make desperate escape happen. You can't use this against monsters and vehicles, which of course makes sense, but it is a nice way of putting it on something like a Terminator Captain or something like that with some Wolfguard Terminators to prevent your opponent from being able to run away from you. And also, if they then do and end up in a prickly situation when they're then within 3 inches of another unit, you just charge them again. So it's really quite nice. We then have the Fangroon Pendant, which allows you to shoot and declare a charge in a turn in which you fell back. Always really, really powerful, especially if you do decide to activate your Great Wolf is Watching and enter into a combat, and you do kind of get stuck there against something that's a bit more like resilient, and you would rather your counter unit be somewhere else. It's a nice way of having it on a unit like this that can always get involved in a scrap, kind of always be using the 3-inch counter charge, and then disengage and then go somewhere else it would rather. It's a nice bit of toolkit to have up your sleeve. The final one then is Long Strider, which is very, very nice for a Space Wolves army because it allows an Adeptus Astartes model and its unit to re-roll charge rolls. That's always just really, really nice. First up in the stratagems then is the Pyre Taker's Eye. This can be put on an Adeptus Astartes infantry unit and can be used in the shooting or the fight phase. The latter of which is probably where you'll get the most use out of it, especially if you are thinking about stuff like Terminators in this attachment. Obviously, you can put it on stuff that's a bit more potent, but effectively what this does is in the shooting or fight phase, it can give you lethal or sustained hits 1 until the end of the phase with that unit. That's particularly nice in combat, because effectively you can then just chuck a unit in and get sustained hits on the whole unit, which is always going to allow them to sort of punch a lot harder than necessarily their base stat lines would allow them to. Now, as a Space Wolf player, you're probably going to want to be in combat quite a lot, so this is very, very nice. It is exclusively to infantry, which is nice because it's sort of going down the Terminator direction with this detachment. I think it's some of your more elite foot infantry rather than Thunderwolf cavalry, because they're good enough already. So it's nice having a way to give them either lethal hits or sustained hits 1 to give you some tactical flexibility. We then have Armor of Contempt. Of course it's here, Space Marines, it must be here. But we also have Runes of Claiming, which is really, really nice because it allows you to make an objective sticky or keep its control until the opponent re-controls it with the new wording and all that stuff on the data slate. But effectively at the end of your command phase, you can just make an objective sticky. We then have a 1 CP Chilling Howl, which on a Terminator's unit can allow you to do a 6-inch aura where everyone must take a battle shock test at a -1 if they're below half strength. This is activated in your opponent's command phase. So I guess it can be quite helpful at preventing your opponent from having objectives. It's not bad. If it's a razor-thin margin as to who controls an objective, popping this to potentially force a battle shock test is really nice. However, battle shock stratagems and battle shock in general can be a bit 50-50. Results may vary, if you will. Same with the Tyrannies and Shadow in the Warp. It can be hugely powerful and even game deciding if it goes off in your favor. But sometimes if your opponent makes all their leadership tests, then it feels kind of moot. But it's a nice piece of toolkit to have, especially on a Terminator unit that is going to be a higher OC in this detachment. If they've been fighting loads of stuff, have drawn loads of enemy units towards you, then you can just pop this and potentially deny them from using stratagems and deny them from holding those objectives. We then have Stalking Wolves. What this does is allow you to put it on a unit of Adeptus Astartes infantry and give them stealth in your opponent's shooting phase, so they'll just be at -1 to hit, which is very nice if you have chucked everything forward with the counter charge of the Great Wolf Watches and you kill what you charge. You then have a little bit of protection if you are then a little bit out in the wind. The final one then is Onrushing Storm, and this is very powerful because it's always very powerful. It allows you at the end of your opponent's turn, if a unit is not within engagement range, to remove it from the battlefield and put it back into strategic reserve. This does have to be a Terminator squad, but that's still really nice because they do have deep strike, so they will then be able to return in your subsequent turn. Overall then, what do I think of the Champions of Fenris? I really quite like it because it does feel really fluffy. It's the same reason I really like the core index of the Space Wolves with all the sagas. I know there's more powerful ways of running them using Stormlance and things like that, but ultimately, if you're a Space Wolf fan and you want to feel like a Space Wolf, these detachments are really cool at giving you that kind of heroic, constantly charging, constantly in the flow of battle, you know, doing cool stuff, being a space Viking, which is what you want to do as a Space Wolf fan. So this is a really cool detachment for that. This is the last of the Grotmas detachment, Space Wolf fans. The best to last, perhaps. I really want us to get a Space Wolf army, and I know Fletcher is very keen to make it happen. So stay tuned for all of that. If you want to see a Space Wolves army, head over to On Demand, where we'll hopefully be able to talk about this more and start showing you painting tutorials and all the other stuff we do over at On Demand, and hopefully we'll be able to run this kind of a detachment as soon as we can. If you are a fantastic freebie friend, then please do subscribe, because as we go into the new year, all of this kind of stuff that gets released, your balanced data slates, these kinds of attachments, as soon as we have the information, we will be handing it over to you, so you can be the first to know if you hit that notify button and hit subscribe. Otherwise, join us on Demand, where you'll be able to see all of these different detachments in battle reports and podcasts and Dungeons and Dragons and Call of Cthulhu and loads and loads and loads and over 100, nearly 1,000 videos on Demand in our vault. So check it all out by heading over to tabletoptactics.tv and consider signing up. It makes all of this possible, and thank you to every one of our on-demand bosses for this year. It's been an incredible road. It's been a fantastic year again. We've been doing events. We've seen you in person. It's been fantastic. So thank you from me and thank you from the rest of the team. I believe this finds you all on Christmas Eve. So I hope you're having a fantastic Christmas Eve. I hope you have an amazing Christmas and a very happy new year. Me and the rest of the team will see you in a video very, very soon, especially because we were releasing stuff over the Christmas break too. So stay tuned for all of that, especially on Demand. And until next time, I've been James Jordan, aka The Bard. We've been Tabletop Tactics, and I hope you have a very, very Merry Christmas indeed. Bye-bye.
Enjoying today's video? Here's a quick look at what we've released this week for our on-demand members. These videos join a huge library of exclusive content that grows every week for our on-demand community. If you want instant access to all of these videos and more, head over to tabletoptactics.tv or download our app and sign up today. And currently, we have an introductory offer for new customers, so there's never been a better time to join On Demand.